This is called the survivor's benefit. Social Security will look at how much you and your spouse were each receiving and then continue sending the larger of the two checks. It won't allow you to collect both your benefit and your spouse's. The exact amount you'll receive also depends on your age, whether you're disabled, and whether you remarry before becoming eligible to collect Social Security. We know this is a complicated topic, so we put together a...
We have a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, SSDI, and just a ton of news around stimulus payments and stimulus deposits that you have to know. Like I said, President Biden did promise that more stimulus checks will be sent out in 2023, so let's get into the most important news that you have to know. More money is being distributed to states and cities, and Americans can qualify to receive this extra cash. You have time to qualify and apply for stimulus payments. Yes, it is official. The Biden administration is now meeting to discuss the next steps to tackle inflation for the people, and they want you to receive the stimulus money faster than you expect. And with relief going to be sent out, the South Carolina residents can get a relief check from the government, and there's still time for taxpayers to sign up for this. Now in June, the state's Department of Revenue announced a $1 billion tax rebate plan, and it essentially is a partial refund. The plan promised to refund up to $800 into the pockets of people who need the most. And while the first deadline has already since passed, there is a second deadline for those who are affected by the hurricane and the natural disasters that happened this year. The South Carolina Department of Revenue sends out stimulus money to citizens who filed their taxes and income taxes. If you filed before the deadlines, the funds are in the process of being sent to your mailbox or direct deposit. Now it could take a couple of days for it to show up, so you better be patient because Joe Biden wants to also send out more stimulus. Because the website from the IRS, Emergency Tax Relief, they pushed a second deadline of February 15th for those who are affected to apply and qualify for the stimulus money. The website states the amount of your tax liability is determined by the amount of individual tax that you owe and minus any credits. Because basically you can find out what you're owed right now instead of waiting for the end of the year. You can calculate your liability shown in your form and subtract it from any credits you might have. If the number is over 800, you'll receive the maximum funds. Any amount under that will gain exactly the price calculated. Any citizen of the southern coastal state also received a tax liability amount on their tax return to the document qualifies for the cashback. Those who wish to file for the second deadline through the disaster relief extension can do so by submitting tax payments and documents through an online portal. New plans have also been announced to give $1 billion of stimulus cash and relief funds to people who live in Georgia and need the most. More than 3 million locals receiving state benefits will be given stimulus cash. In order to qualify, you must receive assistance from Medicaid, stamps, cash welfare, or subsidized health insurance. The governor even said that the assistance will help people in the state that are most vulnerable citizens, help them cope with the continued negative impact of the crisis and combat inflation that's caused by disastrous policies. So it's not the first time the cash bonus has helped out people in Georgia during this time. Governor Kemp also announced a distribution of another stimulus payment. Yes, it seems like stimulus checks are going out left and right. During his speech, Biden said he had touted the easing prices for gas, clothes, and appliances as good news for the holiday season. He said it would take time for inflation to return to normal levels. During his speech, Biden also made clear that he remained laser focused on battling inflation exacerbated by supply chain disruptions while working to create more high-paying jobs in manufacturing. Biden added that inflation at the grocery store is beginning to slow. Prices for things like clothes, television, and appliances are going down. The good news for the holiday season. The U.S. Labor Department also reported that consumer prices released and increased 7.7% in October, just from a year earlier, the smallest gain logged since January, and the White House has warned that prices could spike again if unions reject a potential contract deal with railways, but Biden did not raise the issue during his remarks. So, on average, the National Retail Federation estimates that people are planning to spend around $9,000 on cash, credit cards, and decorations and gifts during the holiday season. That's a lot more than last year. But still, we need to see President Biden do what he promised to the people and send out stimulus.
To subcontracting limits. The National Defense Authorization Act of 2009 directed the Federal Acquisition Regulatory Council to institute a government-wide limitation on excessive subcontracting. This change put the Department of Homeland Security's specific requirements established by the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act in conflict with government-wide rules. This bill simply repeals the Department of Homeland Security's obsolete requirement. I urge my colleagues to support this bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
He reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I know that I'm starting with 20 minutes, so I won't ask how much time I have left. Thank you. I also rise in support of Senate Bill 3499, which amends the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act of 2006. This bill repeals outdated Department of Homeland Security contracting requirements that set a limit of 65% for subcontracting costs. The National Defense Authorization Act of 2009 established a subcontracting cost limit at 70%. Unfortunately, these conflicting limits have just created confusion for contractors in emergency response and recovery efforts since then. Repealing this obsolete provision will make subcontracting.
So some big developments on the fourth stimulus package are being made. Top Democrats have announced that Biden administration has plans to pass new relief legislation, and this new bill will affect millions of people financially. You want to watch this entire video to never miss out on the most important stimulus check information. And folks, don't forget to subscribe. Here are some breaking news from the White House officials. The Biden administration is to propose legislation that would allow the federal and state agencies to go after oil companies and wholesale and retail sales practices. Top lawmakers have been criticizing the industry over price gouging and profiteering, as American voters express increasing concerns about the high prices of a wide range of consumer goods, including energy and food. Chuck Schumer said passing legislation to bring down retail gas prices is at the very top of the list. Schumer has teamed up with Nancy Pelosi to push this new legislation forward. Many have said that this bill would help many consumers and provide them with additional financial relief once it is enacted into law. Now, big oil companies have profiteered the marketplace, Nancy Pelosi said. She noted the companies and strong corporate profits over the past years. Pelosi stated that they are hoarding the windfall while keeping prices high at the pump. And according to the Automobile Association, the move comes as a gas price has surged in the wake of the ongoing prices. Despite recent falls, the average price of a gallon of gas is now over $4 in the country, up from $2.88 a year ago. Oil companies have enjoyed record profits as prices have soared. Exxon, the largest U.S. oil company, is expected to report record earnings on Friday, and Chevron recently reported the best 2 quarters the company has ever seen. Nancy Pelosi said the White House had discussed a holiday for federal gas taxes, but said there was no evidence that oil companies would pass those savings on to consumers. Oil companies are not alone in reporting huge surges in profits, even as consumers